I'm kind of this. I had an alarm going off for something I need to do. And thank the Lord it went on off so I could turn this off.
What a beautiful gathering.
That's good. Okay,
Thank you,
great.
Christine.
All right. So
And we're alive.
we are
You're,
live. All
you're pretty
right. We
Pjae
are good
Stanley.
to. Ah, so let me just go ahead and click this. Okay, I'm making sure I wasn't clicking myself off of here before I said okay. So thank you guys all for being here. Welcome. I'm so excited to have our wonderful guest this morning, Chelan Harkin, and you will be too when as soon as you hear from her. But I want to just go ahead and say hello and welcome and thank you so much for being here. And if anyone feels led to pray us in, please do so. Please let me know and go ahead and pray us in.
I love to pray out loud.
All right. Thank you so much, Rev
Ah,
Sherry.
so what I know is that there is only one God. There is only one life. There is only one love. There is only one mind. And all of it is us. We are awash in infinite wisdom, infinite creativity, infinite love, infinite peace. It expresses in, through, and as every single one of us, every single second of every single minute of every single hour. And it never shuts up. We live in the flow of infinite inspiration. And I am grateful that we have this monthly opportunity to experience and celebrate that, especially today. So I give thanks for inspiration. I give thanks for the fellowship of Anton. I give thanks for the beauty and the talent and the skill and the willingness to share of Chelan. And I release this word into the law knowing that it was divinely inspired, that it is automatically divinely made manifest through the one law. So I invite you to anchor it with me by repeating together. So it is.
And so it is. So it is. Thank you so much, Rev Sherry. Appreciate that. So we are welcoming Chelan Harkin, an inspired poetess. I'm not really sure what the name is, but anyway, her poetry is absolutely amazing. Her inspired poetry has been flowing through her for years. Um, she has always had a close connection with the spiritual world, a loving, ecstatic, and expressive spirit, and an intimacy in her soul that she longs to share with others and the world. Poetry is one of her favorite, most satisfying ways to accomplish this. And from her book, Susceptible to Light. And if you don't have it, you're going to want to get that. She said, all of these poems have come through essentially intact and entire in less than 2 minutes with little to no content editing. And I know that to be true. So I don't want to take up any more time introducing her. I just would love for her to be able to speak with you all. So we're just going to give her the floor and let her choose to do and speak to us how she wants to. So Shalon, the floor is yours. And let me just remind everyone, and Shalon as well, excuse me for a second, that we can ask questions and make comments. So please raise your hand if you have something to say, and we're just going to give the floor to Shalon. Thank you so much, Shalon, for being here this morning. Yay.
Hey, you all. Hey, you all. Good morning, good afternoon,
Good.
good evening, wherever you are. It's been such a cool experience showing up, saying yes to a lot of invitations and not knowing exactly, what the tone of the space is going to be, and just getting these varied imprints of just different environments that I show up in. And this one, oh my God, I feel such a tribe in this, the energy here immediately. And just God, it just affirms how much, my God, we and I need that, how much I need kindred souls who are really riding the waves of wild grace and all the implications of that, because it's this journey of striving to have an authentic, open relationship with spirit, with God, not one that's just conceptual and ideological, but one that is felt, one that is close, one that involves the wholeness of our being. That's still extremely, extremely, it's counterculture. It's opening, I feel, and that's the great revolution that's happening. But it's lonely at times. For me on my path, it's been extremely lonely. And so I'm just so happy to experience that you all have each other and that I now have this group of friends
That's
as well.
right, you do.
I just want to really, really thank you all, because we need to affirm each other in energetically, especially with just the frequency of our being. That's the deepest type of affirmation that we give, when we just resonate with each other on these levels where our whole self is kind of known implicitly. But also we need to affirm this way, because it takes a lot of courage to be on this path of opening to the unknowns, and something that making ourselves receptive, letting go of control as we let, I love the term wild grace, move through us, rather than forcing our lives and ourselves to look a certain way, and moving from the motivation of old conditioning to strive to let all of that down, so in hope that there's something more beautiful, more elegant, more connective, more brilliant than any of that. It takes a lot of courage, as
Yes, it does.
because in part we're just these biological beings that want to survive, and biological beings are predisposed to wanting to know how we can do things, and wanting to know and be kind of certain that we can get our needs met, and it's scary as all hell on a lot of levels to operate with unknowns, to let go of our strategies for getting our resources. And that is the great invitation to humanity, is to surrender all of those, basically actually to surrender all of our purely survival based patterns that keep us vying for this sort of that keep us in competition with our fellows, and letting that go, and still trusting that we will get our needs met. And not only will we get our needs met, but we will be come into the type of right relationship with ourselves, with our brothers and sisters and fellow people, and with life, and with God itself. And so I just feel that. I feel that energy here, and there's nothing more exhilarating. And also, the more we come together, the more our own processes are exponentially driven forward. And I was just bored and doled out of my mind in my public school, high school years. My classes were so boring, unbelievably so. I remember my brain would hurt, in a lot of my classes. But there was one thing that I remembered and retained from my science, all 4 years of my science classes, which is a fascinating principle. And that is that basically, I'm just so, my scientific jargon lingo is probably off, but the basics is that to create heat and light, there needs to be a quantum of energy to do that. So if there's a consistent amount of like a photon or something doing its thing, but it's not a certain amount of that, it doesn't create this power of heat and light. So there's something really extraordinary in rallying the energy of our hearts together, and the synergy that happens, and the force that happens. And we really need to be doing that to create the type of tipping point of this force of authentic love that our world is really, really thirsty for. And it's this activating power. And we are all, we all have our own kind of personal, individual, energetic field that we have kind of extra responsibility for.
Yeah.
But we're all connected to this kind of energetic human field. And we're all like these broadcast systems, and we're broadcasting, the old dense stuff that's fear-based and control-based. We're broadcasting that, and we're also broadcasting, a possibility and potential for the new. And so as we resolve the old inside of ourselves, and as we listen to our soul desires and to the intuitive movement of life, and kind of do what we can, experiment with living more from that place, not only do we transform our own self, but we transform the field, which is basically the access of human consciousness. Our human consciousness has more access to reality, and our reality is extraordinary, enlivened oneness on a deep level, which is so cool. But it's also not just a oneness that has no definition, that has no, there's this rich desire of reality for our true self, our souls, to really blossom forth. And so anyway, so as we go through this process of resolving those old, just survival-based, which is also fear-based, which is separation-based, which is suffering, as we do our part to resolve that suffering, and as we do that automatically, new truth, we're more open, we're clearer vessels for to come through us. We transform the experience of and we create more access to the beautiful information, and we just impact the field of all humanity. It's really exciting. Are you guys with me?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Cool. Yay. Okay, so now that that's been said, that was the prelude or whatever. So what I want to talk about, and I'll read some poems soon. But if I were to kind of give this talk, a theme, what I would want it to be called today is the messy path to God.
Yeah.
And I was so inspired and heartened, Reverend Pjae. Is that how you like to be? What should I call it? Reverend Pjae. Yeah. This morning, just right before everyone signed on, talking with you about your process of listening, just showing up and doing your best to be open before you share with your community, and just trusting and listening and asking for guidance and seeing what comes forth.
Yes.
Yeah. And
yes.
And I was really needing to do that this morning too, because we have this one of our old operating patterns that needs to be changed. Basically, all of our operating patterns in society need to undergo a major renovation of understanding. But one of them is leadership, and we have this idea that leadership has to be, you have to be all put together, and you have to be all tidy and clean, and you have to be basically, if you're going to get the attention of the group, you have to at least pretend to have your shit together more than they do. And if you can succeed in that, then you'll earn the esteem of the group and whatever, and so then there can be, it's another conditional model. You have to show up perfect and pressed and dressed, or you're not going to be valued. And so this morning, I'm a mom of two, and I'm getting divorced. Two little ones, a 7-year-old and an almost 4-year-old. And so I'm single mom half time. And so I woke up this morning I had like about 3 hours of sleep last night. And it's just the morning circus, with two kids, getting them off to school. If for any parents here, you just know, the morning circus. It's nuts. It is nuts. No matter how hard you try, no matter what structures you have put in place, it's just, there's a morning circus that it's unavoidable. And so, but I was like, oh, still though, I'm gonna get them to school early so that I'll have plenty of time to get very centered before this presentation. And of course, like, my kids were at war with each other this morning, and the breakfast, they just refused, and all the things, just, and then my daughter was like just screaming that she was going to pee her pants on the way to school unless I turned around, because she would only pee in our toilet at home. So, these are the things of life. These are the things of life. And when we resist the things of life, that's when we show up in ways that don't serve, essentially, as leaders, just as people. When we disallow the truth of the human, the kooky and endearing and chaotic and the learning ground of human life, when we're told, when we have this paradigm of needing to hide that, marginalize that, push that away, and only just show the, the prettied up stuff. First of all, it doesn't really serve us. We all know, we've all done that, right? And we know how tense that is, tiptoeing around our own self and our own experience, and curating and managing. And my God, it's so much. So, my all of my breakthroughs on my personal and poetic path have come from just experimenting with creating a wider circle of inclusion, for my own self, and as we allow more of our holiness and our humility to come in, that's how we genuinely come to include and embrace others as well. We're not just virtue signaling as much. It's just a more authentic way with ourselves and with others. And so at the threshold of every launch into more exposure, or into more the possibility of more what you could call success, or just at every threshold, the invitation and the necessary step has been, am I willing to embrace and integrate and allow the mess of things? Because we simply can't, we cannot, it doesn't work. And it's so beautiful, it's so generous of life, actually, that life doesn't allow us to experience our wisdom without experiencing our wounds. It doesn't allow us to experience our triumph without knowing our traumas. And we need to be humbled so that we're not, it's a very energetic process when we're resisting ourselves through the strategy of arrogance, through the strategy of just fragmenting ourselves. So we're only showing this particular part. We're repressing our life force, and we are these vessels for life. And we're just clogged up, essentially. We're clogged up by being controlling. And, you feel it in your body, you're stressed, and the process of being humble is just really, it's going into what is alive and true. And as we do that, we have this grace of this energy inside of us that is ungenerative when it's repressed. When it's trapped, it's like a stagnant swamp, it becoming freed again. And so the process of being humble, being honest, bringing our consciousness into awareness of our struggles, our mess, all of that, it allows that energy to move again and to be freed. And when that energy is freed, then first of all, life has a channel. Life can use us. And that's really what power is. It's when we surrender to the movement of life.
Mm.
And we can
Jesus.
really only access that through the deepest humility, which is such a cool paradox. So in my poetic journey, my original breakthrough where poetry started to just flow in this way, it came from this experiment of I was 21 and I was in a time of really like major acute chronic constant inner crisis, because I didn't have as a very sensitive being, sensitive both to truth, love, the light, essential light inside of us, and then experiencing the misery of the contrast between the truth of that and the ways we were operating. I just, to take care of myself and not having better ways, it just piled on all types of ways of protecting myself and keeping myself from pain. And so I also kept myself from potential. And so I was just really sort of suffocating under ways of patterns of avoiding myself, and felt so very disconnected. And so this sort of desperate prayer that I didn't know how to speak, but was kind of carrying at all times, was like, God, please just bust something open. I really need to have a sense of something real and true alive inside of me. And I need to have an expressive channel for that, so I can really feel true belonging and connection with others. And so God, sometimes God just throws us a bone. And so I had this I had this powerful, this has happened twice really in my life in this type of way. I had this powerful motivating impulse that I couldn't resist, really, to try and experiment on myself in this time. And the experiment was that I would allow myself to write a bad poem every day for 30 days. And I would share that publicly, no matter how bad it was. And that was terrifying, because I felt like poetry was my main gift to offer to the world. And so I wanted to be represented properly. And I wanted people to, that was the main way that people would see the value that I had. So if I were to write a bad poem, and, that was terrifying. But I was so caught in what I call the paralysis of perfectionism, and this tether of judgment of good, bad, and the stress and misery of that. So just allowing, okay, it's okay if I'm a fool. It's okay if my poems don't reflect intelligence. It's okay if they're just downright bad. Like more than that, more than the outcome, I need a new environment inside of myself that's characterized by acceptance, by more acceptance and more freedom. And so on the second day of that experiment, because when we accept ourselves, it turns out that that unlocks us. We have to accept our fears for them to move. And so on the second day, it was like a colossal river of life just busted open. All these old, dense places in me, and poetry started to flow. I'll read you the poem that came through on that day, and it's kind of feels like my first love. This poem feels like a first love, because this is what just busted things open and hasn't closed back up since. And it wouldn't have if I hadn't been willing to embrace those fears and those judgments. So this is called Say Wow. Each day before our surroundings become flat with familiarity, and the shapes of our lives click into place, dimensionless and average as Tetris cubes. Before hunger knocks from our bellies like a cantankerous old man, and the duties of the day stack up like dishes, and the architecture of our basic needs commissions all thought to construct the four-door sedan of safety. Before gravity clings to our skin like a cumbersome parasite, and the colored dust of dreams sweeps itself obscure in the vacuum of reason. Each morning before we wrestle the world and our heart into the shape of our brain, look around and say, wow. Feed yourself fire. Scoop up the day entire like a planet-sized bouquet of marvel sent by the universe directly into your arms. And say, wow. Break yourself down into the basic components of primitive awe and let the crescendo of each moment carbonate every capillary and say, wow. Yes, before our poems become calloused with revision, let them shriek off the page of spontaneity. And before our metaphors get too regular, let the sun stay, a conflagration of homing pigeons that fights through fire each day to find us. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes, beautiful.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Mm.
So, so this poetry started flowing like quite profusely. And I was still a hot mess, but I had this cord of connection and trust to something beyond me for the first time in my adult life. I came into the world with that quite strong, but in my adult life, that was the first time I felt like, okay, it was almost like an invisible umbilical cord to the beyond, and I wasn't isolated in this great, wild, gigantic, endless universe, and I had a cord of security and stability and awe in that. And so poetry just kept pouring in that way. Thank God, and a deep healing process also then shortly after began. But for about 13 years, I had hundreds and hundreds of these poems, but I was so unable to really share them, more widely. I really had about 3 people that would respond to my poems. It was my mom and her 2 best friends. And God, the amount of fear that I had of rejection, I just didn't have enough imprints of being able to be this authentic self that comes through in this poetry and have belonging and have other people that were with me. I felt so alone, and these poems were so precious to me that I just couldn't bear, like, if I put this part of me that was the most essential and inspired and whatever pure reflection of myself forward, and everyone was like, what? What? I just felt I couldn't bear that, because I was already just really grappling with a very, very deep kind of existential loneliness. And so it was terrifying. So it took about 12 years to finally create this book. And meanwhile, I had what I call fairy godmother syndrome. I just really wanted a publisher without me having to go through any of my insecurities, without having to fully encounter the burn of those. I wanted a publisher to find me, to scoop me up under its wing, to validate me to the world. And I could, because I wasn't able to do the work of going in my, crushing securities and stuff. So anyway, again, at the threshold of the new, there was this toward the end of 2020, there was this, again, another invitation of like, okay, I have to face the really hot mess this time. I have to face this mountain of limiting assumptions. And and I guess I'd rallied enough resources to again conduct this experiment of is there a possibility that these limiting assumptions might not be truths, basically? And that what might happen when I pursue this deepest soul desire, that these fears might not reflect what will happen. But, you know, when we pursue our dreams, we have this romanticized idea of like, oh, we're just prancing down a rainbow path, doing little cartwheels, and it's all dreamy. And that does happen on some level when we listen to what the desires that life has placed inside of us to bring those forth. Absolutely, the cosmos activates, and the greater God, or whatever you want to call it, all the forces really rally to support that, and extraordinary doors do open as we, with courage, in the name of love and truth and liberation, bring our gifts forward, because when we do that, all creation is benefited by that. So that does happen. And there's this need to absolutely go through the fire of all the reasons that, you know, that I didn't share this work before. And that is a burn. And that is the process of both becoming kind of a phoenix on one hand and total ash on the other. And yeah. So okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna read another poem here.
Okay. And after you do that next poem, if you guys have comments or questions or
Oh,
whatever,
yeah.
this is a good time to raise your hand. You go ahead and read that. But yeah, just I know people have some thoughts on this because you are really touching hearts here. I'm telling you, this is
Is that right?
fantastic.
Cool.
Oh,
Thanks.
absolutely. See, is that right? You don't even know. You don't even know. So we need to make comments. Yeah.
We need feedback every
Yes.
step of the
Yeah.
way. We need
Yeah.
encouragement, and we
We
need
do.
feedback, because
We
we
do.
just show up here as people. We always do our best, but we need feedback to know
Yeah.
how we're doing and what our impact
Right.
is.
Yeah.
But actually, before I read the poem, does anybody have anything that you want to share? Yeah,
Yeah.
please.
Betty.
Betty.
Okay. Wow. Thank you. You have touched my soul. Actually, did not expect to be here today. In fact, because I am attending a conference on dream and spirituality, and it's called Sacred Soul, Sacred Calling. And the theme is exactly, and so I expected to come here because I know Anton a little, and I thought, oh, it's going to be a very different direction that we're going to talk about today. So that's okay. It's okay. I should go. And so I came here anyway. The theme of the conference that I am attending says, you need to ask yourself what desires to come forth through me today that will serve me and serve the world in some way. Some small way, doesn't matter. And that's exactly what you described in your holy escapade with your children. In terms of,
Yep.
yeah, in terms of not. In fact, the conference theme also says, stop believing in the old stories you have been told. That's the trauma we're all experiencing, whether it's a small T trauma or major trauma. Stop letting those be your stories. And so I noticed how you were not in that old story complex of mother, what mother should do, but it's how mother feels at this particular time, and how mother is relating to the beautiful little infant spirit of your children at the time, who are not going to settle down to any order that you might have expected. So that's why you are certainly reaching and massaging my soul, as well as the complexes that we all live through. I could say more, but I'm going to stop. Thank you
so much.
Thank
Betty.
you, Betty.
I really
Fantastic.
appreciate everything you shared. Thanks so much.
Reverend Catherine, you have something? Oh, hang on. Yeah, there you go.
There you go. So Chelan, I'm just taking your impulse in this moment, and I'm feeling the burn, which is one of my favorite things. I call it when the ego is dying. It's like I'm melting. And I'm just taking this moment to speak to you because I was feeling like hiding. And I was like, okay, let me not hide here, because this is the message of the moment. So I have probably 15, maybe almost 20 years of poetry that's inside a closet in my house. And I'm sparkling inside of this idea of just starting to put it out and love it back love it for the first time really into the world and play. And I'm just so in this moment deeply appreciative of the aliveness that's bubbling from even the thought of taking that next step, and appreciating the impulse that you had to come here to talk with us and to share this specific truth. And for me, this is a surprising place to be today. And I'm so grateful I've landed here and I'm here to receive this message, not just about the poetry. It is something I try to live, but for some reason, my poetry is off to the side of what this way of living has been for me. So I was gifted your books last winter, and by a member of my congregation. And it has been a great joy to spend time with them and with you in that way. So thank you. Thank you. Bless you. And with deepest appreciation.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. Excuse me. It turns out, like, I think 75% of the population at least have hidden books in the closets of their soul. It turns out, which that's kind of motivating to realize, like, oh, this is sort of an epidemic. and it's no one's fault that it's scary to bring. It's scary for everyone to bring these things forth. And it really confronts a lot of cultural stuff to share our, creative work that is so important to us. And it's really brave to do it. And what's so cool, more than whatever success or whatever happens, mostly the fundamental gift and that one receives when we put our stuff out is that it just creates an energetic opening for newness of all kinds, especially when we're brave enough to share something that's really kind of feels core. And I mean, my God, when I took the veils away and realized, oh my freaking God, I have to publish my book of poetry. I was quaking. I was talking with a friend who I trust and felt very safe with and all that. And I could barely speak the words, like, because I knew that's not just dramatic. I knew on some level that to bring this thing forth that was foundational and core to my being, it was gonna shake the foundations of my whole inner life and then my whole outer life. And sure enough, it definitely has. But I just celebrate you every step of the way and all of you. And I'm gonna read a poem that, let's see, where is this poem? Oh, here it is. This was a big part, a huge part of what gave me the courage to actually keep going on this path of exposure. And this poem's called Approach Thirsty. And this is about the second time I was gripped by the need to experiment that I couldn't resist. And it was an experiment. I was seized by this need to try a prayer experiment. And the prayer experiment was really at the core, it was that whatever deep and true desires, not desires that are fear-based fleeing, let me get a car so that I'll be whatever, seem cool or whatever, but like the things that are really planted in us by life, that basically that God or the greater all, whatever, wants what we want on the deepest levels, and that we're supported as we bring that forward. And that was the experiment. And it was also that there are resources available, that this might be a receptive, responsive universe, and maybe there are resources that can really help. So I decided to pray, go on a walk every night and pray to my favorite dead poets for help. Specifically for marketing support is how it went for inspiration and marketing support. And this story is just wild. And so anyway, this is a poem that in honor to this experiment. It's called Approach Thirsty. Lately, I've been praying to Muhammad, Moses, Krishna, Buddha, Baha'u'llah, Zoroaster, Jesus. Why be choosy? I ask any source of true love and great joy to throw me as many bones as they might. Sometimes I pray to Mozart, Bach, or Galileo to pour music or the stars through me. Often I pray to Tahirih, a great Persian poet and feminist of the 1800s, who would remove her veil when addressing men and was martyred for speaking the irrepressible truth in her heart. Her final words were, "You can kill me as soon as you like, but you will never stop the emancipation of women." I often ask Hafez for a dance, and we go for the most poetic whirls. Sometimes I ask Rumi that he pluck me an ancient, ever-blooming rose, and I crush its scent onto the page. I have a crush on Khalil Gibran and ask that he pass me inspired love notes. I pray to Harriet Tubman, that queen of heroism, for courage, and to Einstein for out-of-this-world ideas. Inspiration is not elitist. There is no muse that is off limits. No genius you should not approach and ask to be yours. Oh, beseech whoever you might, that the master keys that open all hearts are put in your care, that your particularly necessary style of expression may open new portals of beauty to the eyes of the world. Hobnob with all the great dead poets, thinkers, lovers, artists, heroes of justice, leaders of truth. They still want a place to pour their wonder into the world, and you are a worthy vessel. It's an open bar in the sky. Approach thirsty and ask. Thank you.
Is that in Susceptible to Light, or is that just something that you have with you?
This one's in this book called Wild Grace. This is the most recent one. Maybe the most out there in some ways. So thank you for listening to that and receiving it. And
Beautiful.
I've noticed that, you know, even so, this prayer experiment, it worked extremely well in pretty extraordinary ways. And what's cool is even after so much, I guess what you could call confirmation from the universe, there's still not certitude, you know, there's still not, okay, I'm clear, I don't need to be on this brave, vulnerable journey with life anymore. I've figured it out. You know, there's still a dynamic, scary, brave, exposing journey that we keep having to walk. And I notice, I mean, and my God, we are so conditioned by Western thinking to, I mean, it is so out there to actually trust that the forces of the universe are working in our favor, to actually trust prayer. I mean, it's out there, really. We say that we do, but to really be vulnerable with our creator and to really ask, I think that's kind of rare. And I notice in myself still my hesitation to ask for all the help that I want and might benefit from. My hesitation is because more than anything, I want to know that there is that there is this receptive, responsive force. And I'm scared as hell still that there might not be. And I think that that's the main reason that we are afraid to open up. But we have to try, we have to give it a shot, because this paradigm of just efforting in this way that is just forceful and, you know, control based and, you know, pushy, and sometimes where we just leverage our advantages, it's just not freaking working, and it's no fun either. There's no awe in it. Even if we get what we want, we feel kind of icky sometimes about it if we're extra pushy. You know, it was like when my husband, my soon-to-be ex-husband, would like get me flowers or whatever, when I was like, get me flowers. I want, you know, it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good when it doesn't, you know? So we have to, there's a beauty, there's an incredible stress, incredible suffering that's happening in our social systems, just in every way, getting to a breaking point, and so many of our patterned ways totally outliving any usefulness that they might have had. But it's bringing us, it's encouraging us and empowering us, like the one of the evolutionary things that happens is when our environment becomes unlivable, we become emboldened to try a new way. And so what I feel deep in my being is taking place right now. Is the time of the end and the time of the beginning. It's the need to, I mean, radically from the roots, enter a new paradigm of relationship with all things, with God, with our own self, with each other, with our life. That is the surrendering. It's the surrendering of control-based motivations for something more beautiful. Does anybody have anything they want to share?
Well, I'm going to share just really quickly. It's just, I feel like I've been, because we're ministers and we don't, we do church and all that, but I feel like I've been to service today. I feel like my soul has been, right? I like you just touched on so many things, and part of the issue for creators, all creators, all of us are creators, but the thing that's in us that we want to do, it's every time that we want to do something, whatever it is, even if it's writing songs, the next song that you want to do, you have to keep going to God. And I want to feel like, well, I know how to do it now, so I don't need to, and I can just, but it never turns out that way. And so you just reminded me, and hopefully us, that it's always a walk with God, no matter what. Everything that we want to do is always a walk with Spirit. So thank you for that. Thank you for this service today. It's beautiful. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, beautiful.
Martin. Hi, Martin.
Hi, Chelan.
Hi, beautiful Martin.
Thank you so much for expressing these thoughts about what I call cooperation with God.
Yes.
Because I think that that's really takes a lot of courage to speak. When I think of my 4 kids, the 3 boys have all studied science at university, and they would say, "Papa, you're completely mad. You're completely mad. Well, your place should be in the asylum, but not in this world,
Yes.
But I think I don't have to ask my children about God. I rather ask my grandparents, who are dead, of course. And I think grandmas and grandpas, they really do cooperate, and they know how to cooperate with God, even when they're dead already. Like today, I could almost not take part in this because my new partner's son has birthday today and has invited the family to the steakhouse. And then I said, "Oh, it's a pity. No, I cannot take part in this here." And then just an hour before this started, he wrote a WhatsApp that the grandmother of his girlfriend did make some problems, and he had to cancel the steakhouse evening. So, I would like to thank all grandmothers for that.
Thank you. Yay. Great to be with you, Martin. Thank you for all your support and encouragement.
All right, we have Celeste that has her hand up.
Hey there. Hey,
Hey, Celeste.
everybody. Is it Chelan?
Celeste, yeah, Chelan.
Chelan, hey.
Hey, Celeste.
I wanted to be here because I didn't look at my schedule in time, but I caught part of it, and been writing poetry since I was a kid. And really, it's true. I'm in my mid-60s, and I started when I was probably 6. And every time is daunting, And the last one I wrote, it was total surrender. Total surrender. And you have to allow that, because something brilliant comes out of it. It's just not a mental exercise. And so thank you for sharing that. And I did hear one poem and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the the substance of it, because there was so much clarity in it, and yet it was easily understandable. It was accessible to any audience. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Celeste. Thank you. Yeah, life force is not elitist, you know, life force is accessible to everybody. And so that's how it expresses. And that's one way you can know, kind of, I think, you know, if it's hot off the presses of life, or if it's a little bit, you know, I don't know, it's that it can reach people. It can reach the demographic is the human heart, and it doesn't have to prove itself and try to be fancy or anything.
Yeah, correct.
Gosh, I love this group so much. How much time do I have? How much time do we have left?
I'm gonna say you got about 5 more minutes. What you think,
Oh,
Bill?
nice. Yeah, cool. Okay, I want to say a few more things, or maybe just one. I don't know. So mostly, okay, this. So one incredibly life-changing experience I had also at age 21. That was a big year. Poetry broke through, all kinds of other things happened. And I had this experience of it was in a hypnotherapy session, where basically what can happen in a good hypnotherapy session is your system, your mental patterns, and your associated emotional tensions, it relaxes. You feel safe enough. Your whole system feels safe enough to actually relax, which is not a small thing. Because what happens when these patterns relax is our consciousness is free to experience itself. It's not wrapped up in the spin cycle of our madness. And so I had this experience that changed my life dramatically and irreversibly, of encountering my spirit, my true self that is inherently healthy and happy and whole and worthy of love and acceptance. And I would describe it as a frequency of joyful fountain-like light, but it was uniquely me. And at once, you know, it was clear that everyone at the core is something of like that. And similarly, though, to how, you know, when we start pursuing our dreams or whatever, it's not only just easeful. And so as soon as I was able to really connect with, and my identity was shifted into my core identity became that was when I started to be able to actually encounter and go into the immense amount of conditioned trauma and inherited pain, and just, oh my God, the mountain of sorrow that we have, that usually is just, it can be even just too much to even dip into. So I just want to affirm that no matter what we're carrying, no matter how wrapped up we are in it, no matter how identified and trapped, and no matter how in it we are, no matter how much we don't know how to free ourselves from it, no matter how much we're playing out its strategies and creating more pain for ourselves, and on all of that, it's none of it is who we are. None of our self-hatred, none of our shame, none of our loneliness, insecurity, our hatred, ultimately, we are absolutely stewards of that. We still largely don't have enough resources to really be able to do the immense amount of resolution work that we need to do. So that's just a message of I just want to affirm that isn't who we are. It needs a certain kind of attention to be resolved, for our light to be able to steward and transmute these ancient shadows that have plagued humanity. And it's true that until we learn how to transmute them, we do transmit them. And until we learn how to metabolize them, we kind of metastasize them. And we're all doing some transmitting still, and we're all doing some metastasizing. But to the degree we can, prioritize getting the support and the help that we need to stabilize some part of our system, so that we can then encounter, feel through, and resolve some of this old stuff. primarily it's the degree to which we free our genuine joy, and that we all deserve that. And it's all always there for us, this light and this joy, no matter how veiled over it is through the things that we've learned about ourselves that aren't true. And it's ever intact, and it's ever well, it's ever beautiful and radiant and connected. So that I hope that that we can maybe begin to feel the glimmerings of that, and just I feel so much gratitude to you all. I feel so nourished and thankful, and every time I share, it's a completely different experience, and I feel that to be because the web of people is different, and it's all really a collaboration each time.
Yes.
You all are more the quiet collaborators, but we're all I'm just this mouthpiece that's drawing from this well of consciousness that we're all creating together, that is one of a kind right now in this moment. So I just want to thank you for all. I want to really thank you all for all that's arisen and all that you bring, that created this rich, fertile place for hopefully some helpful insights to come forth.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Chelan. Just beautiful. Just beautiful. We have one more question, and then we have a little bit of ending wrap up to do, but thank you so much. June?
Oh, thank you. Chelan, I met you through Mary Reed years ago, and well, and so this is a question, a hypothetical question about creativity. So if you had not been a hot mess, do you think you would have been able to crack open to allow this poetry through? And hypothetically, someday when we're not hot messes anymore, do you think you'll still be a poet?
Ooh, good question. Well, I started expressing poetry when I was very young. When I was about 3, my mom, bless her, she would ask me if I had any prayers to say. And I would just spit out these like mystical poems, I would say. So I think poetry, it's not only a result of the friction of the stone of trauma and the flint of soul. That is a huge part of it, and it's a huge service of it. But it's many things. It's an affirmation of just our reality and our truth, and it's also a celebration of life and a delight, and in some ways it feels like the creative mother tongue of life, and all existence is poetic. The flower opening to before the sun, I feel that poetry is almost woven into the fabric of life. And so one could say that to express poetically, or to see, it's just almost to see rightly, or to see a certain dimension of life and then to speak that. But at the same time, I feel like the shadows they're just rich life force too. They're just sort of potential. Our shadows aren't bad or wrong, and maybe there is no getting beyond them, because they're not bad, they're potential. They're just parts of us that are waiting to come into the fold of greater and greater love. And I do think our love keeps expanding. So maybe we do need to keep encountering this edge of the unknown frontiers in ourselves, and the energy that's released as we include more of ourselves. And we're limitless. So for me, when I'm able to include more of myself and resistance to more of myself is released, the energetic gift of that is poetry expressing through me.
Beautiful.
So I don't know if that answers your question, but it's some kind of statement. Thank you for asking it.
Thank you guys so much. We are out of time. Thank you so much, Chelan. I love it. Just want to remind you guys that our next speaker is going to be Rev D, and she's going to be talking about othering and the effects and the causes of that. And so that's going to be a wonderful thing to be a part of. Don't forget to sign up for TLT. When you sign up, you also get a copy of the recording. So that's going to be wonderful. So just check out Anton.org for all the wonderful things that we're doing. And we do have some, what do we got today? Yeah, here we go. Steve. Ah, lovely.
Hey.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. Thank
Hey,
you so
PJ, I
much.
just wanted to remind everybody
Yeah.
that on the 21st of June is the Anton
Ah,
Summer Cafe. We are welcoming folks and welcoming in summer. It's going to be fun with some music, and we're going to have a chance to meet other people who are members of the Anton community. And there's also going to be the membership is going to hang around for just a moment to vote on a bylaws update, and that'll all be in the e-newsletter that's coming out in a couple of days. But definitely set aside 9 a.m. to 10:30 or noon to 1:30 Eastern on the 21st.
got it. Got it. We'll see you all then. Thank you, everyone. Thank you again, Chelan. Just fantastic. Just beautiful. Do you have a question or something you want to say, Chelan?
Well, can I do a quick plug for my book?
Absolutely, please. Jesus, yes.
So you all can pre-order this book that's coming out. It's gonna be released in September. It's called The Prophetess, The Return of the
Prophetess.
Prophet, the Voice of the Divine Feminine. It's what you could call an homage and contemporary continuation of Khalil Gibran's classic, The Prophet. So it's
And
available for pre-order right
yeah.
now, and
Oh, pre-order. Okay, good.
your support means
Wonderful. Yeah.
Where do we pre-order? How do we pre-order? How do we
Is
pre-order?
Amazon?
you can order it on pre-order it on Amazon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you for
you.
really
Beautiful.
grateful.
Yes. Beautiful. It's just a wonderful time. Thank you so much.